We'll go ahead and get started. So it's my great pleasure to introduce you today, Dr. Bill Ceydeli. Dr. Ceydeli was my junior resident when we were training it was just a couple years ago. Seems like yesterday, but I know it's been much longer. He's a dear friend and has come up to give us a talk about rejuvenation.
Thanks, Rob. Good afternoon. First of all, thank you very much for the Georgia Society of Plastic Surgeons, and again, my dear friend Bob Dinsmore, for inviting and for having me here. I'm a proud Georgia graduate. I trained with Bob like 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, in Medical College of Georgia. And when I started, Bob was my chief resident, so I followed him around for a year, and then he flew to Iraq to serve us after he finished, and after I finished my training in Medical College of Georgia, I flew to Hawaii to train with another Bob, Bob Flowers, and I did my aesthetic fellowship with him. And when I did my fellowship, I was his last fellow, and not only he was my boss, my mentor, but he was like a family to me as well. And then after he trained me, actually he retired, and after 35 or 40 years of living in Hawaii, he's in Birmingham, Alabama. And the talk that I'm gonna be speaking about, this Valentine mouth rejuvenation, is something, one of the things that I learned from him, and I'll be presenting that. After I finished my fellowships, I ended up in Panama City Beach, and I went for a vacation, and I saw that beach, the water and the sunset, and I decided to move down there right after my fellowship. It was 2007, and opened my practice, and since then I'm in private practice in Panama City Beach, basically. Okay, the mouth region. Why is it so important? Because along with the eyes and the mouth, there are the two dominant areas that it broadcasts us. So the mouth is even more dominant, more important than the eyes, because whatever eye message that you're giving, you open up your mouth or you start speaking, and it dominates that message as well. So, actually, I have this is a good one. What happens with as we get older? So there are a lot of changes just around the mouth area as well, and we have the upper lip starts getting elongated, it lengthens, and we have a lip vermilion, it gets thin, and so the lines start appearing there. We lose the pucker of the lip, the body support shrinks, and then the nasal tip drops, and the columella labial angle gets narrowed. There are a lot of changes. So with all these changes, the end result of the aging around the mouth area is that sad, grumpy look. And I tell my patients when they come, you're a very happy person, you're great when we talk, but if you're at a coffee shop sipping your coffee and sitting by yourself, if someone looks at you from a distance, you look sad. You have that sad look, and they all agree. So that's the negative line. So the power of a line, again, when you have that negative line, if you're not in a conversation, of course it's going to make you that way, and our goal is to convert that negative line to a positive one. So how do we do that? How do we fix that? And as Dr. Rosenfield talked briefly about it, by not relying on fillers alone. We all see those patients on TV in our towns all the time, and this is not the way to treat those lines. And I always give, again, the analogy. If someone has saggy, droopy breasts, you just don't put 500, 600 cc implants to correct that, even though a lot of our colleagues still do that, because I see those. If you see that, you do the breast lift, you don't put those implants. The same thing, if you see someone with the lips, the downturned corners of the mouth, you're not going to start injecting, putting more and more fillers, but you have to lift them. It's the same analogy. And as I say again, the only way to fix this problem is, I say Valentine mouth rejuvenation. Of course, if we still want to have these natural looking lips, I may come across a little strong saying that the only way to fix that problem, but I mean it. It really, if at the end we can talk about it, if anyone has any idea, I'll be happy to discuss. But most likely I'll be respectfully disagree with it. You have to somehow, if there is some excess skin, you have to get rid of it. Whether it's on the face, tummy, breast, the corner of your lip, you have to get rid of it. I know it's a little intimidating if a patient comes and you're gonna make a cut on the corner of their lips, thinking that you're gonna leave a scar. But if you think about it, they already have a scar. If they had those lines, what's the difference of that line or a scar? Scar is like irregularities or a crease on the skin. So whether they have it there or not, we are just going to change the direction of that line and make it a happier line. So what is Valentine mouth rejuvenation? Dr. Flowers called it Valentine lip lift. But I always do a couple of other things along with that, so that's why I called it as a general Valentine mouth rejuvenation. It's a combination of a lip lift, so there's a little surgery procedure involved, cutting involved, and either it's going to be at the corner of the mouth, or if you need to do an upper lip shortening, which I'm going to talk about it a little bit, that and the corner of the lip have to be done at the same time as well. That's the first part. The other part is injection of some soft tissue filler. Again, we have to, actually, I use the most viscous fillers that you can find, and never a lip implant and never fat on the lip. I never did, I never will, and I strongly disagree with that. And there's no reason. It's such a precise shape the lip has. It doesn't have this round shape, and when it's that all rounded, then they all look like this, LA or type lips. To prevent that, and I know you're not supposed to talk about the trade names, which I won't. But if any filler company tells you that you're not supposed to use it on the lip, I would use that filler to use it on the lip, and I'll tell you how I inject. There's a purpose to it. And the third part is perioral fractionated CO2 laser resurfacing. So the first part is the corner of the lip or the mouth lip, lip. The reason that the Flowers called that the Valentine lip lift, because literally we design or we mark a lopsided heart at the corner of the lip, and then when this part of the skin is removed, this corner is lifted here, and the reason that for that curve is to make up that distance, so we end up with less to no puckering at the end when we close. So it's again a patient. All these pictures are my personal patients that I operated on. So she has really deep lines at the corner of the lip. There is no way to correct that with fillers or anything else alone. And the other problem is, again, a lot of people thinking that during the facelift, if they start pulling things tighter and tighter, they think that they're going to be able to somehow correct the corner problem. It doesn't happen. You keep tightening them more and more, and the lateral part becomes really tight, and it's not going to correct the lip. And the medial part relaxes some anyways, and that's why you have this really tight operated look, which we are trying to avoid. So again, a small incision is done at the corner with that design. And that's going to correct the corner problem, downturn corners. Not every patient is going to need an upper lip lift. So just like the previous patient, when she has okay sized lip in the middle, so she doesn't need to have the upper lip lift, even though it looks like it's an elongated lip. But if you try to shorten that, then they're going to have too much pucker, which we don't want anyways. But if the patient doesn't have or has minimal upper lip, and in this case, anytime that we plan to do an upper lip lift, I have to do the Valentine corner lift as well. The reason for that is if you try to lift it in the middle, you can only lift the lip at the base of the nose, the width of this, because you're going to make your incision at the base of the nose, and you can only lift it this way. So if you try to lift this middle part with the upper lip lift and you don't address the corner, you'll actually make the corner a little worse. So anytime that you do an upper lift, the corner lift has to be done at the same time. In one of the meetings, a well-known plastic surgeon from Belgium was talking about, just presented his work on upper lip lift without mentioning anything on the corner lift, and you could clearly see all these problems with the corner on those patients. With the upper lip lift, I design like a bullhorn at the base of the nose, literally follows those curves around the columella, and we have to be really careful how much we're going to excise on that area, because you can easily overcorrect it, and when you overcorrect it, it's a very difficult problem to fix, sometimes impossible. So you can always cut a little bit more, but you can't put it back, so you have to be conservative. That's one. And unlike, which I'm going to talk about, the corner lip lift, when I'm doing the upper lip lift, you have to go to full thickness. If you just remove the skin, of course we have the orbicularis oris muscle underneath. If you don't address that, when you close that lip, you're going to have these puckers right at the base of the nose. So what I do, I make the full incision, and then including the muscle, and I remove the rim of the orbicularis oris muscle at the same time. It's quite bloody. I always use bipolar, not a big deal, but that has to be done as well. You go all the way and remove the muscle, so when you advance this part, you have a smooth closure, and you don't have a little bump where you do the closure. And all these procedures are done under local anesthesia only. They don't even get a Xanax, nothing, just dental block, and literally they drive to the office and drive back. So this is her result afterwards. And none of those patients, again, I may be a little biased, but you may be the judge, none of them will have an unnatural duck lip. And again, injection of soft tissue fillers. The reason, these days I almost exclusively use calcium hydroxyapatite. And again, they say that's one area that is, you're not supposed to use it on the lip. And essentially, I'm not really using on the lip itself, and once in a while I do, but the main thing that I like to use that at the lip line. So the way that I inject, I recreate this Cupid's bow, filtral columns, and the lip lines, vermilion border, both on upper lip and lower lip. I have a technique video there. I show a little bit injecting on the lip itself, but almost exclusively I inject on the lip lines alone. And it's very important because, again, the lip is not rounded. The fillers, anybody has access to the fillers. You guys talked about dentists, family medicine, dermatology. So anyone has access to a lip filler, they're going to be able to inject, but it's not like injecting the lip and just and withdrawing the needle. So literally you have to create those lip lines. So there's no way that I can rely on these soft tissue filler with the lidocaine in it, because if you're injecting in one area, yeah, it numbs it, but I stick that needle many times, because literally I'm creating that lip lines in multiple directions over and over. So, and you have to get it right in the first time, because literally within seconds that lip is going to swell and you won't be able to mold that lip anyway. So that's the soft tissue filler part. And this is her result. Again, of course, I did the lip lift on the corner, but you can see from her before almost having no lines around her upper lip, and then she has well-defined lip lines. And the perioral CO2 resurfacing, I use the fractionated CO2 on a higher setting. I would say almost close to being total CO2, but there's no other way you're going to improve this kind of skin without doing it. I mean, this patient, almost none of my patients are smokers, but regardless, they have these lines, and CO2 is not always complete, but it makes a good improvement, and you can always do it another hit. And actually, if it doesn't correct the first or second time, I always offer them, again, that I learned from Dr. Flowers' phenol peel. He exclusively did the phenol peels, and I do the phenol peels. Beautiful results. Of course, there's a kind of side effect of having a little hypopigmentation. If the patient is an olive skin or dark skin person, of course, I wouldn't do it. But as long as if you're staying in the nasolabial fold, within the nasolabial fold, usually mouth area skin is a little different tone anyways. really doesn't make much difference. And instead of trying to cover those wrinkles, which is close to impossible with a makeup, they can always, with a very light concealer, they can cover a little tone change, which I tell them up front, and almost always they're okay with that. So I'm going to talk about, let's see if I can click on it. Okay. Here, again, I already did my injection dental block, and I did my markings. I always mark these Cupid's bow, everything before the surgery, and just make the incision. While we are removing the skin on the corner of the lip, we have to make sure that just remove the skin, unlike the upper lip shortening, because if you're going to remove the muscle with it, then you have a little defect there, and you want the fullness on the lip, including the corner of the mouth as well. So I just almost like de-epithelializing. So I remove the skin. After I make my incision, I just use a curved iris and get rid of that little skin. Again, and also it gets bloodier if you're going to remove the muscle, and you shouldn't do that anyways to add the fullness there. And again, you can always lift this a little bit more. It's very important not to do it too much. Usually I mark it with a caliper around 5-6 millimeters, at least 5 millimeters. And the other thing is, while they are laying on their back, of course there's no gravity, the cheek is not coming over, so everything looks really good. But you do this procedure, everything is good, but when they stand up, you're going to have that gravity, so you have to kind of estimate that and do it accordingly. And so that corner goes to this corner, and I use a 6/0 PDS sutures, late absorbable sutures, and pretty much, I do not use any non-absorbable suture ever. Anything that I do, from tummy tuck to facelifts, so I always use monofilament late absorbing sutures. So I put a couple of interrupted sutures, deep sutures in first, so everything kind of lines up. And I don't do the outer closure yet, because at the end I'm going to do a CO2 laser, and I'm going to go over the incision with the CO2 as well. If I close my incision with the outer sutures, I'm going to melt those sutures anyways. So the first step is to line them up and stop the bleeding, and making sure that the vermilion border lines well. Once in a while, when you do close that, this may look like diving in a little bit, so that just tells me that I have to extend the incision a little bit more along the vermilion borders. Really, the length of the incision, a couple of millimeters more or less, not a big deal, but they have to line up with the vermilion border. And again, this is one of the more viscous hyaluronic acid, but as I said, these days I'm almost exclusively using the calcium hydroxyapatite. The reason for that is I start with the filtral column. So I do my injection once, superficial, come back and go deep, a second layer, while I'm pinching that filtral column. I want to mold it like you mold a Play-Doh, because you only have a few seconds to mold that the way that you want. The last thing I want is injecting something and this entire lip being all rounded, and I hate that look. It's a very unnatural look. I want that literally sharp edges at the Cupid's bow. I want to see the D and the filtral columns. So before it starts swelling up, I want to mold it as much as I can. I roll it on itself, and sometimes it's already swollen, so I put the needle to be able to, so I can mold it a little bit more. So that's the part. Once I finish the filtral column part and molding it, and I'm going to do I did the Cupid's bow, and I go starting from here, go at the vermilion border, injecting on those areas as well. And again, with the combination of, I already do a little procedure and numbing of the lip, and on top of that, you're making not once but multiple injections on the lip. It swells quite a bit. So as I inject, I pinch the lip at all times, making sure that whatever I inject stays within the tips of my fingers, in between the tips of my fingers. And what I also do I open up the 4x4 and make it really the very thin layer of 4x4, something like that. Otherwise, your glove will roll over that swelling. But when you're going to be able to better grasp that swollen lip tissue with the open 4x4, so you can mold it better. And I do the same thing on the, of course, lower lip. And when I finish injecting, and as you can see, I mean, I'm almost done with the lip borders, and you can see this is a 0.8 cc injectable, and I didn't inject much at all, so I really don't rely on soft tissue fillers to add volume to the lip, because I do my little procedure, whether it's upper lip shortening or corner of the mouth lip, I bring that volume back. The lip is there, the lip is inside though, I just bring it out, so you really don't need much volume. And once I finish that part, here I'm injecting some to the lip itself, and these days, to be honest, I don't even do that anymore, because I realize that you really don't need it. So after that part, pretty soon I'm going to show, I'm going to show how I do the CO2 laser. Again, fractionated, you can use, I guess, any brand. I tend to be really aggressive around the mouth area, because no matter how aggressive I am, you know, usually the thing is I wish I could have done a little bit more, and that's why I do a second time if need be. So I go over my incision, and if I had another incision here from the upper lip shortening, of course I go over that as well, and that's why I don't close the sutures, running sutures in the first place. And when I finish my, and you can see this is fractionated, but it's very dense. Once I finish my CO2 part, again, I use the same sutures, which I use PDS, to use it over and over instead of Prolene. I'm going to remove them in 5-6 days anyway, so pretty much no reaction. I use the same sutures, do a over and over running closures, and that will be it, basically.
What's your post-laser treatment protocol?
Mostly what I use, actually, I got a couple of ideas. I was using CeraVe, different creams. Now I tell them a very thin layer of antibiotic ointment, because you know, everybody's allergic to something, and if you get stuck in one type of regimen, the more fancy creams that I use, the more breakouts that they do. So I just tell them just to wash it, very thin layer of antibiotic ointment, not because to prevent infection, but just to keep a little moist area. And the other thing I hear for the burning, a little diluted vinegar works well. But that's pretty much it.
Do you have them all on antivirals and antibiotics?
Always, yes. Because of the CO2, I always give the prophylactic dose of Valtrex. You have like a 1,000, you take it twice before the surgery, so 4 of them, and so that's the routine. And other than that, really, they don't need any pain medication. Afterwards, it really doesn't hurt. What's the difference between removing a little mold on the side or doing this procedure? So, this is the patient that I was doing the procedure. That was actually a couple of years ago, and it's relatively good-looking lip. But you're going to see this is the markings, conservative lip excision, and this is after I finish, of course, closure, and you saw after the CO2, and this is pretty much 6 or 7 days later. You can see the effect of redness, and this is literally probably 4 or 5 weeks later. And when I put it together, it's a nice settle change. It doesn't look unnatural. And I'm going to show multiple patients that I have done, and each lip is going to look a little different. So you always can modify a little from patient to patient. So on this patient, again, you can see the corners. She has a good sized lip here. So I just did that Valentine on her with the same thing, with the CO2, a little injectable. Again, the corners are turned. Again, very thin lips on the corners. And after the procedure, a lot more pleasant. This is relatively early. You can still see the effect of CO2. And this is, you can see she has no lip. It's a pencil lip and very elongated upper lip. On that, I did the upper lip shortening with the Valentine. And this is her post-op. It's an older lady, and now she has her lips back. And this is another, actually she's the mayor in my town, and I operate on her. She's also very elongated. It's not as bad as the other one, but still you have these lines and elongated lip. I did the lip shortening with the lip left on her, and this is her after picture. And when I tell my patients, if you close the before picture, if you just look at everybody's after, the most important thing is you cannot tell that they had a major lip procedure done. They can't even tell that they had a lip injection done. And this is the patient that I showed before and after. Again, probably most of these patients will benefit from facelift as well. But even without the facelift, just around their mouth area, it just makes an improvement there. I have few men in my practice that, and there's one of them that his problem was actually he was drooling on one side because of the downturned corners. So I did just Valentine, of course, no fillers, no CO2 on him, and it's a nice settle change, and he's really drooling on that left side ended. And again, she has really good sized lips here, so I'm not going to inject any soft tissue filler on the lip itself, but I would like to make this a little bit more defined and just get rid of these tiny lines. And afterwards, it's a much more pleasant lip before and after.
On her, does she laser plus the shortening, or?
No, the shortenings I told, anytime that I did shortening, I told you on those two patients.
Valentine plus laser.
Let me see, this one, no shortening, yes, just Valentine and laser and the lip fillers. And you can see it's more defined, the filtral columns and her cupid's bow.
And are you putting filler in the commissures?
Never.
Marionette lines?
Once in a while I may put a little bit, but on these patients, no, I haven't. Yeah. And hers also before and after.
If you look at that, can you go back one slide there?
Oh.
That transverse line, below the columella there. Some people, I've seen some people have.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
They have like a really long line across
Yes.
there. Do you think this helps for that problem too?
I don't think so, unless you're doing the laser, because I tell patients, so you may have these lines, any lines on the upper lip. If you balloon up the lip, you're gonna get rid of all these lines, but you have these disgusting lips. So what I tell them, on this, probably doing the laser helped on that line, or maybe augmenting along the filtral columns, maybe interrupted that line. I don't know how, but I don't specifically inject anything ever anywhere other than the filtral.
Right, but the combination of procedures you've done obviously made that better.
Oh, it does. I mean, again, if it doesn't make better, that's the laser part. If it doesn't make better, you can always do one more time, one more hit, or phenol peel, and it will correct it. And it's not, let's say, if it's that low, if she had a really elongated lip, which she has relatively here. And the other thing is when you're doing the CO2, with the CO2, it's going to tighten, it's going to lift the lip anyway, so you have to be really careful. If it's borderline, I don't do the upper lip shortening, because I can always do it afterwards. But if usually it's close enough, it's not that in the middle. So if that's the case, if I'm doing the upper lip shortening, I will be going through that and getting rid of it and lifting it anyway. So essentially this line becomes right at the base of the columella. But if this line is low enough, I never might make decision or markings, okay, let me include this line while I'm doing the upper lip shortening. You get rid of the line, but your entire upper lip of the patient will be out, so I don't do that.
Did you do an upper lip here?
Not on this one.
Because it looks like she has a scar there on the right palate.
Hold on. Let me see actually. I don't know what happened, but
Did you time out? There you go.
you know what? It may be actually. You know what? I took it back. I think I did on this as well. Yes, that's the scar. Yes, I did upper lip shortening on that as well. Probably 7 years ago, 8 years ago. So I don't, I guess, remember all of these. But yes, this is probably the third patient. And on this one, just Valentine lip shortening. And lip lift, I'm sorry. And again, it's a relatively younger patient. It's kind of when you want to make an incision in the middle of the cup, when they have that line, it looks like the line I explained to them, you're just changing the direction. Yeah, if you look carefully, you may see a little line, but it's a lot better look overall. And this patient is not even a smoker, has multiple lines, and relatively younger, late 40s, maybe early 50s, I guess. But afterwards, again, a natural looking look. And this one, afterwards, many years later, I actually ended up doing her facelift as well, but not on this picture. I only did her Valentine on her with the laser. And again, we published that. And I want to, read a poem from Dr. Flowers that he wrote. And he always says, the facelift equates, they have us believe, to that root from old Adam from which God made Eve. And if by sutures or threads we pull stuff real tight and talk about it, we'll make faces right. So I asked Lord, are facelifts really key to our art? He said, son, lifting faces is just a small part. It's forehead and eyelids, malars and chin, mouth shape and nose shape, fat shape and skin. It's jaw lines and frown lines and vanishing moles. It's lips full and shapely, and the stuff in their souls. It's surgeons like you, armed with my gift, who know that great outcomes are more than just a lift. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer. Yes.
So with the scar, do you have any, the main reason why I've not done this is because of the scar, and that it kind of, tell me about your experience with that. How often do you revise them? How often do you have a patient who uses no makeup that you regretted doing it? Because my first reaction would be I would probably only do this on somebody who definitely wants to use makeup. But tell me your scar experience.
Well, again, like I said in the beginning of my talk, so we are trying to change the direction of the line. I never claim or to tell the patients that you're not going to have any scar. I just tell them, right now, you have a deep line. And when you say scar means, yeah, you have a line. But if you don't do any surgery, all these patients have some kind of line and indentation, some irregularities anyways. Either you can have that looking not so pleasant, maybe sad, or you accept maybe a little scar and you can either cover up, or even if you don't cover up, it's more acceptable. It's the same concept like if the patients come to me in tummy tucks. People say for marketing purposes, mini tummy tucks. I have never done it. I will never do that because my whole goal is to make them look great and sexy when they wear their bikini. If my goal is to limit the incision, I tell them don't get anything done. Whether it's this much incision or this much incision, you're going to hide it under your bikini anyways. My goal is for you to be able to wear the bikini. So the same concept. So if they have any hesitation, same thing with the breast lift. Patient clearly needs a breast lift. So it's almost like saying you need a breast lift, but you don't want a scar if you're not going to be naked. Or if you're going to be naked, then I shouldn't do the breast lift, the implant. It's better not to do anything. So I talk to them. If they accept, yes, they're going to have a scar, but I don't know the percentage, but if I have to revise, maybe there's a little pucker, not the irregularity, but the only thing that I revise, this corner, I try to keep this incision lateral as, of course, short as possible, but when you keep it short, it's the same concept, you're going to have a little pucker. And what I found out, they really don't mind the length of the incision, but they always complain about the pucker, so I don't like this bump. So right now, I'm not that conservative. I know that instead of having a pucker, I just make the incision a little bit more. I never get a complaint about the incision. Same thing with the tummy. I try to keep it pucker and small, and they always complain a little pucker here, so I make it a little longer. Nobody complains that you make your incision up to here, not to here. So the same concept. In terms of once in the beginning, if you remove the muscle, and it dives in, because if you don't have support, then there's a little indentation. So that is a little problem. Then you can see the scar you made revise. But if you just remove the skin, put it back together, so it's not kind of diving in, it's superficial, it really belongs. And on top of that, you're doing the laser. The worst comes to worst, do another laser. And I never claim that there won't be any scar. I just tell them that you're going to have a much more natural, pleasant, positive lip with a little line, but the direction of the line will be changed. And the same thing with the upper lip shortening. Yes, they have a line. If your goal is really to look carefully if there's a scar or not, yes, there's a scar. But it's just that at the end, either you accept no lip and all these irregularities, or you have a really pleasant lip, your natural lip that you had 5-10 years ago, maybe a little line at the base of your nose. And the other thing I tell them, if we don't do anything, even if they want to put a makeup, no way that you can cover the irregularities that they have or deep lines with the makeup. But you can always cover up a little line with the makeup. So that's another thing. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, those are very, very nice results.
Thank you.
Would you say that most of the time you are injecting the marionette folds? I was impressed with the improvement in the marionette folds. And in the cases that you think you did not inject them, what would you attribute the improvement to? Would it all be to the resurfacing?
Most likely resurfacing, because some of them I have done double passes afterwards. But if I have anything left over in terms of injectable, I may. I'm not saying that I won't inject whatever is required, but that's not my primary focus. And I actually tell them that what the Valentine corrects, because some of those patients, they come, their downturned corners of their lips is connected with the marionette line. So it literally starts from here, dives all the way here. And I tell them, it's not going to correct this part of the procedure because this is the lip procedure. It has nothing to do with that. I have to do a facelift to correct it. I literally lift the lip and show them what part it will correct. And sometimes actually they have a crease coming from the lower lip. And if that's the case, still I may open up the corner, their upper lip will be, or the corner will be showing, but that crease going right underneath will be still there. I try to inject some, not aggressive, but that crease will not correct with the corner lip as well. And the last thing I want to do is aggressively inject and make that area too much. And then when the skin makes that crease, it's difficult. If it's a hard crease, you try to inject and it's going to go to the soft area anyways. And once in a while, if you don't do it right, it may even make it look worse. So that's why I try to go perpendicular to that. When I see them, so they rarely come, okay, I want to lip lift. They come to me saying that, I feel sad, I feel old, tired. Usually, not necessarily old, I feel tired. So it's kind of my job to tell them, yeah, there are a lot of things that I can do, and I can start talking about facelift right away, which if they need it, I can tell. But I always tell them, let's start with a small procedure. I mean, it's time-wise, healing-wise, it's not even comparable to facelift. Financially, it's much cheaper. So here, you're ready to schedule a big facial procedure with me, and here as a surgeon I'm telling you, just don't give me that much money, let's do the small thing. If you're still not happy with the rest, we can always do it. Maybe I lose some patients doing that because they are so happy with the lift of their lip, and they may not, but most of the time they appreciate it and they see what you can do with a small procedure and they come for the rest. But I try not to oversell and saying that we do this and it's going to correct everything else. I separate everything and I just list everything for them, and I say, if my opinion, instead of going through a big procedure, why not you can drive to my office, like literally I'm removing a mole. You don't even have to take any pain medication. You don't need a driver, and you can drive right back. And I tell them that the most of the recovery literally comes from the laser itself. So otherwise, that's nothing, and the swelling from the injectable, really within a week, it's going to be okay. But when you combine all those three, it tends to be a little longer, a couple of weeks maybe.
Yeah, these results look great. I want to know about the one patient, because we've all had that one patient, whatever we do, who is just not happy. I want if you can tell us about
Mhm.
one patient that was just miserable after you did this procedure and what the problem was. Was it patient selection? Was it the scar? Was it their expectations?
Honestly, I mean, it's after that talk, I'm sure we should have those, and I have done enough, I promise. But I don't have any miserable patient from a Valentine, because it's a very conservative procedure. If you just think about it, forget about that little cut on the laser. How bad can it be? The only thing is, yes, it may linger a little bit more, and once in a while they have prolonged redness. A couple of weeks or maybe 4 weeks, if they are miserable because of the redness, one thing. But if you're asking the question 3 months later, 6 months later, would they do it again, or would they not even come close? I really don't remember anything. Maybe they were miserable, didn't come back to me. I mean, I don't know. But because I will do anything in my power to make it better for them. If it's still downturned a little bit, I can always remove a little bit more. If there is not enough volume, I can always inject a little bit more. If the laser didn't take care of it, I have a phenol peel. And if I'm conservative, I do it. If it needs a little bit more, I never charge them. It takes me literally 10 minutes to do it. So when I commit something, same thing with my other procedures as well. Anything that I can do on the local, I'm not saying that nothing happens to me, but I will go to the end until everything is good to my taste. And if it's good to my taste, it's usually good to their taste. I'm more critical to myself than them. I mean, I see sometimes like breast cases, you always have some problems with the breast. There are 2 of them. They are so happy everything is good, but I say, you know what, it's a little too much, let me tighten it a little bit more. So I offer those to them. But probably if I have to say the most problem or complaint comes from the laser, in my experience. So that's why even though I'm aggressive, try to be not so aggressive, and I started talking to them the last few years. I may need to do it again because there's so much I can do to correct that.